Welcome, Nico. Thanks for jumping on the podcast with me.
Thanks for having me, man. We already started the conversation. It's a shame we weren't recording already, right?
Yeah, it was a good start to the convo.
There you go.
Yeah, so why don't you just introduce yourself a little bit for those of you that don't know Nico? Yeah.
Nico Lagan, not your typical Christian, somebody that will be unapologetic for what he stands for. I'm not here to piss people off, but if your emotions are that easily disturbed, you're not going to like it. So I believe in masculine men and in feminine women. That's what I believe in, and that's what I stand for.
Awesome. It sort of reminds me of, I don't know if you've seen this going around online, of this comedian, Matt Rife, that sort of made a pretty...
I've done yet another video on him today.
So, nice.
I do videos. I've done 3 different videos on him since he actually said what he... I thought the joke was hilarious.
So did I.
My girlfriend is like, okay, whatever. But I was loud. I knew where it was going. As soon as he started, he said,
yeah.
As soon as he mentioned the kitchen, I'm like, yeah, she's just a terrible cook. I knew it. But this thing is hilarious. Absolutely. And, Matt Rife is the perfect example. If you don't like his comedy, guess what? Skip it. It's really just that simple. And if you don't like his humor, do you not remember Eddie Murphy? Do you not remember the real Saturday Night Lives? Like, do you not remember George Carlin? Do you not remember what actual comedians with balls actually sounds like? Those guys don't care. And Matt Rife is not that bad. And you look at him, he's not the most masculine man. He looks a bit effeminate, just look-wise, but man, I respect the guy. Like him or not, and that's the video I made today. I'm like, a guy, Matt Rife, if you look at him, he refuses to get canceled because he will not apologize. And his joke of people getting up in arms about what he says, and he's like, yeah, don't worry, here's my complaint page. Just go buy a little helmet, a little soft helmet to protect your head. That's hilarious. That is a guy right there that don't care. You don't like me? I don't care, and I'm going to make sure to piss you off even more. Like, you don't engage a comedian. You just don't. You don't. Don't engage a comedian. He's going to eat you alive. If he's a real comedian, he don't care. That's what he's paid for. Matt Rife became famous by arguing with people, by literally being on stage, picking at people in the crowd. You don't think that I'm going to start rapping and I'm going to go against a guy like Eminem in a battle. Like, I'm shooting myself in the foot right from the get-go.
Yeah, I think comedians are the number one person you don't try and go after, right? Like hecklers, like that's what they're called, right? For people that are into stand-up, like hecklers are a part of the job, and I wish I had that skill because it's a useful one. So,
you know what? I do it every day. For the people that come to my page and start talking stupid, I'm a troll. I'm such a troll. I enjoy it, man. It's good for the algorithm. And I say that to people all the time. People come to my page and I'm like, bro, all you have to do is skip. You just have to skip. But you chose to stay, so because this is my page and it's my content, and of course you're helping me with the algorithm. By the way, I appreciate you. Thank you very much for doing what you do. But then I'm going to troll you because it's good.
Right.
It's good, and people think it's hilarious. So why wouldn't I do it? If you have let's call it balls. If you have the courage to come to I wouldn't go to Matt Rife's page and start insulting him. He'd eat me alive. So same thing. If you come to my page, guess what? I'll fight back. I'll troll you.
right,
And you're
right.
the one that's going to leave because you'll never bore me. I think if I have the time, I love to entertain people. I love it.
Yeah, I think that's like the good and the bad of the internet, right? It's like anybody has a voice nowadays, whether you earned it or not. You can put your opinion out there, and sometimes it's not always a good thing. I mean, it's just usually these trolls have no life, they have no ambition, they have no where they're going in life, right? So it's like, I don't know. I guess my usual thing is just ignoring them and just moving on because I don't know. I'm not going to waste my time on that, but I could have fun. Maybe I'll take your role on there.
But you're not wasting your time when you think about it, because people, no matter what. So the first thing you need to accept is there's 3 types of people you'll meet in life when it comes to your opinion. People that hate you no matter what. There's nothing you can say to convince them to like you. then you have people that are going to like you no matter what. Like President Trump was the best example. If you hated him, you hated him. If you loved him, you loved him. But then there's people in the middle. And those are the people you really want to go after. Because the ones that love you, they love you. They will say they're always going to agree with you. The one that hate you, don't worry about them. There's nothing you can do. Yet they're the one that are going to help you the most. Like, people don't realize that, but what they did with Matt Rife, so they tried to cancel it. What's the worst thing that somebody can do when somebody's trying to cancel you? Is to apologize for it. Niccolo Machiavelli from the book The Prince, the guy that wrote The Prince 500 years ago, explained this very clearly. There's 3 stands that you can have versus any opinion. You either are with it, you're against it, or you're somewhere in the middle that you don't want to get involved. If you're for it and you win, awesome, you win. If you're against it, but you stay against it, even if you lose, the people that win will at least respect the courage that you had to stand by what you had to say. But then you have the people in the middle that don't do anything and they never get anywhere because nobody can trust them because they don't stand up for anything. They don't believe in anything. So, Matt, what's brilliant is by trying to cancel him, you brought him more fans because the left is not going to like him no matter what. Matt knows that. So he's not catering his content to them. They're never going to like him.
And you could argue that he is pretty left leaning. I mean, you hear him talk and you can tell that he's, like recent, although, I say younger generation, but he's like a year younger than me, I think, but but he's such a nice guy. Like, he'll like preface jokes with like, oh no, but like, I don't mean this in this particular way, or I don't mean, you know what I mean? Instead of just unapologetically saying the joke, which is what I love about, like, I'm a diehard stand-up comedy fan because I just, because they've always, they've always been free speech oriented. They've always been like, even in like lulls in society when we've been all the way back to like Greek times, right? Like, who is this Greek comedian? Aristophanes was his name, and he like Caesar would come to the theater and he'd make fun of Caesar. So it's like comedians have always right, and they've always stood for free speech, which is why I'm such a fan of stand-up comedy. I sort of
worse than that. If you look at a jester, the role of a jester was the only person in the kingdom that could make fun of the king. The only one. He was paid to make fun of him because that keeps them honest. If you look at a George Carlin, he's probably the best at it, the best I've ever seen. He was able to take political stuff that are extremely hard to understand and extremely emotional, make a joke out of it. You're like, what?
Yeah.
Hold on, what? He was the king of taking something extremely serious, making a joke out of it, and then you're like, man, he's right. Like Dave Chappelle, to a certain extent, is also capable of doing that. I don't like him on everything. I used to like him a lot more. Now he tends to be a lot more left than he used to be, but at least he says things that we all think. We agree or not, that's fine.
I mean,
he has the balls to say it.
I just saw a show of his in Austin, Texas, and he definitely said stuff that I would say is contemporary, not okay, right? They're not politically correct. Yeah. Incorrect. Yeah.
Says a lot about.
Right. Even today, right? And that's part of why he left, I think. That's part of a few years back, right? He disappeared. He was like, I'm done with this. Like, I can't be open and honest. So he left for a while. I don't know what made him come back, but yeah.
Money.
Yeah.
But that's why
I mean, he's fine, right?
He was on Comedy Central. They were offering him, if I remember correctly, they were offering him $50 million for one season of the Dave Chappelle show. And back in the 2000s, that made no sense. There was nobody in comedy that was making $50 million for 1 year. And he said no because he explained later on that people didn't get his humor. That it wasn't because, man, some of the stuff that he made, the white supremacist, and it's a black guy that's racist. Like, that's brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. He was so ahead of his time. But it
just doesn't fly now. That would not fly right now, I don't think. That joke.
I listen, I love older movies, like especially in the 2000s and the 1990s. And man, you watch those movies and you're like, man, that was 20 years ago. You can't say that anymore. A
Something
lot
like
of the
Blazing
stuff.
Saddles. Have you ever seen that
Oh,
shit? Yeah.
mm, mm.
It's a classic, but you just can't make that anymore.
No, no. I was watching a movie yesterday, and the guys used the word fags. They're like, "Oh, you guys are just fags," and he's just talking to his buddies, like, "Hey, you're a homo." And
Mhm.
how many times have I said that from a martial art background? You have a guy on top of you sweating, and you're calling him a homo. See, this is the thing.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
joke. It's a guy to a guy. I'm just man, bro. You're a homo. Leave. Don't
Mhm.
put your balls in my face. Like this is how bad it is. But saying this is not correct anymore. But man, the guy just blares a fag, and I'm like, wow, I haven't heard that term in a long. And it wasn't talking to a gay guy. He was just telling
Mhm.
his friend to stop acting like a fag.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I remember growing up, whenever you would do something stupid, it's like, "Don't be gay," and it was just the way you would say it, and it didn't even have anything to do with being homosexual, like, it was just the word that you would use, so you're just like,
Same thing as retarded. This
"Yep."
is a word that, but yet that's a medical term. To this day, go Google retarded. It
Hmm.
literally is a medical term that is used, that is appropriate, but you can't say that anymore. Why? It's the,
Not even,
it,
like, doctors or
I don't think that doctors have the balls to use that term anymore.
that's fair.
Yeah, I don't think they
Yeah.
have the balls. It's words. Words hurt, right?
Mhm.
They're dangerous. They hurt our feelings. It's bad time to live.
Yeah, I think, there's something nice or comforting, at least for me, of being able to just laugh at something difficult. Like, whenever, like, somebody passes away, that most people would think you can't laugh about make a joke about that. But if anything, it's sort of lighthearted, like, it's nice, it's a good feeling, it brings everybody's emotions back up. Obviously, it's a sad occasion, but I don't know, that's why I enjoy comedy so much, right? Because you can change somebody's emotion in a time that isn't exactly what you would think it'd be, so, yeah.
You know, my sense of humor is not typical. My girlfriend tells me all the time that it's a bit outrageous what I think is funny. And,
Mhm.
I'm a Christian and I say this to her all the time. I'm like, listen, God has to have a sense of humor. If he made me, he has a sense of humor. He has to. He has to. So, you know
Yeah,
what?
yeah, yeah.
Don't stress it. It's all good. It's all good. We're good. You have to be
Di
able to laugh at this. Come on. Life is
do
too
you
short. Life is too short.
do you think is there, like, certain jokes that you would make only in front of guy friends and certain jokes that you would say in front
No,
of you just say them whenever, right?
I don't care. I really, really don't care. It's, you know, the other day, so I was at a church function, like outside. It was
Mhm.
like a barbecue, and I swore in front of an older woman. Like we're in the South, right? We're in the deep
Right, right.
South, and people are religious here. Like they've been religious their whole life, and I don't remember.
Bible
I let
Belt?
go. Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. I let like a thought go or something like that. Then
Mhm.
she looks at me. She's like, "Young man, you do not swear." No, no, but you know what? I had respect for her. I'm like, you know what? Good for you. Good for you. You know what? You're right. I should be better. I should mean every single fuck you that comes out of my mouth. I should own it. But I'd
Mm.
rather say what's on my mind and get corrected by somebody to say this is not appropriate. You shouldn't say that. Because I'm being myself. I'm not somebody that lies
Mhm.
because, and it's not necessarily just because I want to be honest. It's because it's hard to remember all your lies. It's a lot easier to tell. It's a lot easier to say just say the truth because it's true. Even if it hurts people's feelings, you know what? It's fun. Plus, you don't have to remember because it
Mm.
happened. You know that it's the truth. So just say the truth every time. And it's okay not to be liked for it. It's okay.
Yeah, I think there's, like it's like a masculine trait to sort of realize that you're not responsible for other people's emotions, you're only responsible for your own.
Mm.
So I think it's like
Abso-
taking ownership, right, of your own life. So and
It's
yeah,
out of my control. Like
right.
I can't, you know, this is how I see it. If people are capable of hurting your feelings with words, that means you are extremely easy to control.
Mm.
That means that, so if I don't like you and I'd like to hurt you, I'm a martial artist, so I'm not going to attack you, but if you put your hands on me, I will definitely hurt.
Mhm.
So let's say I don't like you, but I would like to legally be able to hurt you. That means I'm just going to insult you. And then you're gonna get upset. You're gonna put your hands on me. Then I can break your arm and knock you out. And that was self-defense. see that this is stupid what I'm saying, but at the end of the day, what do you think happens in traffic? Look at what happens in traffic. People get all up in arms, give the finger, they get an argument, people get out of their cars, they fight, they do a bunch of stupid things that could end you up in jail. You could literally do something so stupid that for a fraction of a second that you lost patience, you end up paying it for the rest of your life just because you were so easily to insult. You were too easy to insult. It makes no sense. No sense to
Mm. Yeah, it's not as clear as it used to be. I mean, it's a little bit off topic, but it's sort of the reason I don't want to conceal carry, you know, and like I'm a Texan, I want to conceal carry, but man, who knows today in the courts how they would interpret certain situations. People like, yeah, you could have been self defend, you could have been acting in self defense, but I don't know, you know,
Well, you can't
it's
worry about that.
yeah,
This again doesn't belong to you. If like look at Canada, we don't have stand your ground.
hmm
This is not a law that we have in Canada. So as a gun owner in Canada, I was able to own guns, but technically if somebody was attacking me, I'm at the mercy of the judge. Self-defense is a very gray area in Canada, and
hmm
you are at the mercy of the court. And I can remember a case where older guy, wakes up in the middle of the night. There's two people in his house that are going through his stuff. So he lives in the middle of nowhere. He knows that help is a long way. Calling the cops never helps you right now. It helps you
hmm
later, but things go south extremely fast. So he grabs his gun and he starts shooting. People, the two boys, they leave. He ends up going out of his front door and continues shooting. So he went to court. He was found not guilty, but he went to court because, as per the opinion of the district attorney, he overstepped the boundary. Once the people left his house, they were no longer a threat. And back then, my dad was still alive, and my stepdad, should I say, but I was arguing with him. I'm like, okay, sure. They were in my house. They had bad intentions. They're still my property. I'm still shooting. The fact that they're running to their car doesn't mean they're leaving. For all I know, they're going to grab a gun
mm
that's in the car. So I don't care. I'm protecting myself. But as a trained gun owner, I made peace with the fact that if something were to happen, if my girlfriend's with me in the house and I lived in the woods for 2.5 years before leaving. There's no cops there. I've seen 2 cops in 5 years, 15 minutes away from my house. So it's up to me to protect my family. That's my job as a man, is to protect them. I'm not thinking consequences. If something needs to be dealt with, I will deal with it, and then I can deal with the consequences later. But in the time of it, there's no time to think. In action, you either do or you don't.
yeah. I guess at the end of the day, it's your role to protect your family, and if something happens, it's your fault. Like you need to take ownership of that, right? So
But
you
if you did, even if you end up in jail for protecting your family, even if it's unfair that you don't deserve to be there,
right,
your
it's still the
your
right thing to
family,
do.
your family's safe. You did the thing. Men are disposable. We are disposable. We are meant to serve. We're meant to protect. We're meant to provide. We're meant to put our families before our needs. We're meant to be selfless. We forgot that today. You can see it, but this is our role as a man. We need to be held responsible. We are the first and last line of defense against everything. And it's your job to protect your family. There's no if or buts. If you're a man, your job's to protect them. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it right now, or back when the Ukraine war started, right? Like when things really, when shit hits the fan, if you will,
Yep.
like, we go back to traditional roles. Like the women and children were able to leave the country, and the men were forced to stay and fight the war, right? Which that's just the way it is, and that's the way it should be, right? Like I don't think that the women should have been forced to stay to fight. Like it doesn't make any sense. Like I'm not sure if they would even like. There's certain places where they could have helped and been useful, but at the end of the day, it's war. So
But this is where, there's 3 waves of feminism. The first was to vote. The second was to be equal to men in the face of the law. And then the third one is trying to replace a perceived patriarchy by
Mhm.
matriarchy. But the third wave of feminism is crap. As soon as shit hits the fan, as soon as you need a strong man to come help you, those women are as feminine as they get. They don't, oh, no, no, it's okay. I'll stay behind. No problem. I don't want to get, no, yeah, exactly. It's always like that. Women that, we're so privileged right now because
Mm.
unfortunately it's not just women, but men and a lot of men in general are not very masculine anymore.
Mm.
That in a bad situation, they will call somebody else to take care of things for them.
Yeah, I think, if you were to ask a third wave feminist if we should make the draft for both men and women, they would definitely say no. So it's like they're nitpicking, right? They're only choosing the things that benefit them without the downfall. Like th- they're trying to become like, what is that joke that sort of, I forget, this guy from New York that he says that these feminists are trying to become the men that they hate.
Yeah.
And
Oh, that's
you
oh that's oh man, I know the comedian you're talking
you
about.
know who I'm talking, I think
Yeah,
he's Jewish,
yeah,
and
yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah.
Oh man, what's his name? I love this guy.
He's good, he's good. He's talking about like a feminist rally, and yeah,
Tall Jewish man. What's his name? We were just talking about him. I would love to see that guy live. He has a podcast. He's hilarious.
yeah. He lives in New York, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
Or he's a diehard New Yorker, no small talk type of guy. Man, it's gonna
but
bother
he's
me that
but he's a bit conservative though. He's not a leftist.
I
Like
mean,
he's more of a
is
libertarian. He's somewhere in the middle.
is he okay? I mean, he's from New York. I could see some left leaning things and stuff, but
What's his
yeah, I mean,
name?
if you're a comedian, well, I don't know. It's comedians are
Andrew
odd, right?
Schultz. Andrew
There you
Schultz.
go. Yeah, that's him.
I
Yeah, that's
love
him.
Andrew Schultz. He's awesome.
Yeah, he's hilarious. His podcast is good too.
About the only white guy that can drop the N word and everybody
Yeah,
laughs. That dude,
it's crazy.
he don't care. I love this guy. This guy's it's probably top 3 best comedian right now.
Yeah, and the man had balls of steel for sure.
Oh
So,
yeah, he's always funny. It's not enough. You see his podcast, he's hilarious. He's just funny. He's just a funny guy through and through. You gotta love him.
yeah, definitely. But what was I saying before? Right. So they sort of nitpick and only want to choose the specific things that are beneficial to them, right? And but the thing I've noticed as well is like there's sort of a fourth wave, fifth wave coming through where, or I don't know how many waves there are at this point, right? But 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 it's sort of like there's a movement of women realizing like no, like being feminine isn't a bad thing, right? Like we need to value masculinity just as and value femininity, and realize there's a usefulness to both in society, and that there's probably a reason that they exist the way that they did, right? Or if there's, at least if there's not a reason, like that's the most efficient way of living, right? So I think they're sort of flipping back on it and realizing, and it's probably a good thing, I feel, because now they're choosing to be that way, right? As opposed to before where they had no choice. So they had no.
I wouldn't say they had no choice. That's the perception they want you to believe.
Mm.
That to me is the feminist agenda that makes us that. So look at my girlfriend, for example. She comes from immigrant parents. She's Italian
Mhm.
and she's more traditional in her values. She expects a man to be a provider and a protector. She expects me to be manly so that she can be feminine. And me, there's an expression that says that men protect women not because they're weak, but because they matter, because they're
Mm.
important. We protect them because they matter to us. And that is our job, to protect them. That doesn't make them weak. That just makes them important. So that this is something that we see today is women take men for granted. They don't understand that to this day, the society in which we live in North America was built by men. We're built by strong men. We're built by men that only wanted to build a protection between nature, the viciousness of real nature, so that we could be in a society where our kids could thrive. Because there's only 2 states of mind. You're either in a in a survival mode or you're in a growth mode, but you can never be both. It's either or. If you are always stressed about where your next meal is going to come from, that's all you're obsessed about. There will never be any growth. You will live in a world of action. You will live in a world where everything is dangerous because you need to do something for your survival. But if all your basic needs are met, you can now sit down and look at the world and try to make sense. So you're capable of developing the person that you are. But both states are never possible at the same time, only once, one or the other. And as a man, when I say that you should be a protector, you should be a provider, it's more than just saying that I will kill any intruders that are trying to hurt my family, or I will provide money so that I can feed them. At the end of the day, but when you mix the protecting and the providing, you need to understand that if you want your children to thrive, you need to build an environment at a home that is capable to sustain them so that they're not stressed all the time. They can just be. And by just being, they can start developing. You can start teaching them to be better. But you need to bring, I hate the expression a safe space, but at a home, there's only one safe space that's possible. It's at home. Once you cross that front door into the real world, there's no safe space. We don't live in a world of fairies and unicorn, but at home, it is the job of a man to create a space that will allow their children to be children and that will allow his wife, his girlfriend, to be feminine. Studies show that in order for a mother to be a great mother, she needs to feel secure. She needs to feel protected. So a man's job is to enable others. And this is very interesting because we don't talk about this. We really try to separate men and women, but yet, if consider this, 50% of marriages end up in divorce. 70 to 90% of the time, women are the one going after the divorce, depending on their education level. 70% if they're high school educated, 90% if they're college or higher educated. In 90% of the cases, they get the children. So single fathers only happen 10% of the time. And if you look at the statistics, single fathers are a lot better parents than single mothers. All the statistics shows that a single dad does a freaking better job than a single mother. Yet, we don't say this. We don't talk about this. We always, there's a massive bias in North America to shove the kids with the mother instead of putting them with a father where they will thrive more. But this doesn't mean that a father is better than a mother. That just means that a father is an enabler. We're great at creating an environment where a kid can learn. We're great at providing discipline. We're great at providing structure because we are logical. Men are logical. Men love to fix things. Women care for people. They like to fix people. Why do you think 90% of engineers are men and 86.6% of nurses are women? And now it's turning, if you look at
doctors, yeah.
If you look at University of Ottawa, which is the biggest university in Canada, you're starting to see that shift. Now it's more than 70% last time I checked of people in medicine, no matter what, from nurse to doctor, 70% women. And I wouldn't be surprised that 20 years from now, if it continues the way it does, it's going to be the same number as engineer. 90% women, 10% men. And it makes sense. Think about it. What do you want as a doctor? Do you want a guy like me that's going to call you a little bitch? Hey, bro, stop being a bitch. Get the fuck out of here. Or do you want somebody that's going to be more nurturing, that's going to care, that's going to be compassionate, that's going to be kind to you, that's going to actually try to understand you to make you feel better? That's what women do. And I don't understand where the disconnect came from to say that being a nurturer compared being a protector is better or worse. By me wanting my girlfriend to be a nurturer, it's is that a subpar job? Are you kidding me? We need every single child on this planet has come through a mother. I can't create life. I can participate, but I can't create life. But I can protect life. I can't create it, but I can make sure that once my wife, my girlfriend is pregnant and she's vulnerable, I'm there to protect her. Same thing for my children. They're young. They can't take care of themselves. I'm there to protect them so that my wife can teach them emotional intelligence. And I will teach them what it is to be disciplined. I will teach them all the logical things. And my wife is supposed to teach them all the emotional things. Men and women are complement.
Mhm.
There's a reason why it takes two parents to make children. At least it used to, not anymore, but it used to. That's because both of them are needed. One is not better than the other, but there are gender roles. I do things better than my girlfriend does, but she does things better than I do. That doesn't
So
make me better than her, nor does it make her better than me. It just means we're meant to complement each other.
hmm. So what do you think about, I guess, same-sex marriage and having specifically when it comes to having children, right? Because I've always had the opinion that it's not that I have a problem with same-sex marriage, right? It's that I have a problem of the lack of that polarity when you're raising a child, right? You don't have the nurturer and you don't have the provider. So then how can you, I mean, oftentimes you'll see that, right? Like there's a lesbian relationship, you'll see that there's one that's more masculine than the other,
Yeah.
and same thing with two men. But and so even among same-sex relationships, you'll see that polarity, and that's just how that just goes to prove how important it is to have that polarity in relationships. But then, okay, so then can you still represent that polarity when it comes to children?
I don't think so. Because a man cannot, a woman cannot teach a boy how to become a man. Plain and simple. Boys are born, men are made, and we're made through trial and tribulations. Look at today, between 33% to 40%, 33 to 40%, depending on the study that you look at, of boys right now are raised without their father present in the house.
Hmm. And this has been true for the past probably 100 years. I mean,
Oh
you
no,
know,
no, 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 no. It's been getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. Like when I was a kid, 30 years ago, 35 years ago, I was an exception. I became an exception. It was not current that the father would not be present. It was bad situations. But now it's literally between 33 to 40%. Like
mm,
and it makes sense because analyze it. If 50% of divorces, of marriages end up in divorce and 90% of the time they end up with the mother, that's about 40%. So the numbers don't lie. Like it's about
mhm.
40% of boys are with their mothers, and we're talking 33 to 40, so somewhere in there. So the numbers make sense that because women divorce, they take the kids, and then it ends up with a mother, and then what do you think happens? Look at men of today. Like I think they were saying that 90% of men in prison come from single mothers. 90%.
Mm.
90% of runaways come from women. Homelessness. Single mothers create 90% of homelessness. This is insane when you think about it. It's absolutely insane when you think about it.
But
I'm
don't
I'm not
you, mhm,
I'm not trying to blame women for this, but I'm just saying
mm.
that there's a massive bias in the family law, in the justice system, especially when it comes to family law, to believe that women do a better job. But the statistics are completely out of hand. If you look at the numbers and get your feelings out of the way, women are doing a terrible job at raising like as a single parent. They're doing a terrible, terrible, terrible job.
And the majority of men that are in prison for not paying alimony are in prison for not paying alimony for kids that aren't even theirs. So that has some weight, you know?
Uh, of course it does. It's just that this hurts people's feelings. To say this hurts people's feelings, but they're facts. This is not an opinion. These are facts. The number shows it across the board. You can find hundreds of studies showing this, that women are doing a terrible job at being single mothers. And it makes sense. They need a space where they feel safe. And
And
look at all the girlfriends that I've had. And I've dated doctors, I've dated professors, I've dated, name it. Like I've dated across the board. Because to a man, what a woman does doesn't really matter, does it?
mm,
But no matter which one, no matter how left they were, they always wanted a manly man. This is always something. The fact that I'm 210 pounds of muscle that they know I can defend them, that they know that I will do what needs to get done. To them, this is a trait that they want in men.
And what to you, because obviously there's the physical aspect, right? Like, can
Yeah.
you physically protect? And then there's the monetary aspect. But there's a whole other realm that I feel like a lot of women are complaining about, right? There is, just to name a couple, like maybe, you know, we used to have the saying, a man of your word, right? That's not so much a thing anymore. Um, you know, there's a few other, right? Like there's like trying to solve their problems. There's, you can go on, but what to you are those things that are lacking now, other
Well,
than
it's
the fact that
morals.
you're not right?
Morals. We don't have any virtues. Like men are not virtuous anymore. And I'm writing my second book right now, and it's going to be based on the 5 virtues of a good man, which are being courageous, being a protector, being a provider, having temperance, and having faith. And those are 5 things that men need. And I did not invent this. I'm just a big fan of history. This, you can track that down from the Bible to Greeks, Stoicism. They had those very similar virtues. I just adapted them in a way that it makes more sense in today's world. But I didn't invent this. This was courage was not really something that needed to be mentioned before because that was expected.
Hmm.
This is the thing, right? And this is what's amazing today is that to me, courage is the basis of everything. As a man, you need to be courageous because if you're not courageous, you cannot be depended on because you
Hmm.
don't know how you're going to react in any given situation. So how can your wife, your children trust you if they don't know how you're going to react? That means without courage, you're not trustworthy. And if you don't have courage, you don't have the balls to stand up for what you believe in. That means you're a coward. How can you depend on a coward? You can't. So that's why courage is the first and foremost. You need to be courageous. Even today, to have faith, to believe in something greater than yourself, it requires courage. Because you know how many times I'm making fun of for being a Christian, and I'm not one of them that's going to judge you. If you don't believe, that's fine. That's your prerogative. I'm not, as much as if you have questions, I'm going to be there. I'm not going to be rude to you. I'm not going to lack respect towards you. We can still be friends. Doesn't
Hmm.
matter to you don't need to be a Christian for me to respect you. But at the same time, there's a lot of values that are taught through Christianity that provide. If you look at our system, our justice system was based on the 10 Commandments. People have forgotten that, but our whole system started with that. And
Yeah, I mean the whole of Western society is based on Judeo-Christian values.
but those are just morality. Forget the Bible. Forget that. Forget God for a second. Put God aside and read the Bible as a psychological tale. Take the stories as, you know, the fables we had as a kid. I don't know if you've ever taken the time as an adult to go back to the fable of your childhood and read them as an adult and say, oh, wow, I did not get that when I was a child. My favorite one is The Little Prince. It's a French tale. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. A little guy that's capable of traveling from planet to planet and somehow end up on Earth. Great. I have it as an adult. I read it and I'm like, wow, that's beautiful. That's so beautiful. The things they're trying to teach you in there. But to me, forget Jesus Christ, forget the God, forget everything. You don't see it as religious. Just take it for a psychological tale that could teach you virtues, that could teach you things when you're wondering what you should do in life, when you're lost.
My favorite is Adam and Eve because I feel like everybody knows that story, and if you reflect a little bit on it, it sort of shows you the folly of between men and women, right? And as a man, how you're supposed to lead and how you can't fall to the beck and whim of your woman and such. So it's an easy one to bring up.
It's funny you say that because I made up this expression that says that a man is a woman's rock, while a woman is a man's weakness.
Hmm.
So we are supposed to be stoic in order to lead and in order to allow our girlfriend or wife to be feminine. At the same time, we are supposed to be vulnerable with our woman. When it comes to the outside world, you're supposed to be stoic. You're supposed to be in control of your emotions, or else they will control you. But you are supposed to give yourself to your woman. You are supposed to give yourself emotionally to her. So she is your weakness, because around her, you're not necessarily controlling your emotions as much as you could,
Hmm.
because you're supposed to be emotional with her. She's supposed to know the type of person that you are.
I think you can share, like, you know, you often hear women, it's like, "Oh, you don't tell me anything," right? And well, it's like, well, if I tell you, right? If I tell you, then you're gonna freak out, right? But I feel like a way that you can do it is if you can share the problems that you're going through, but then offer a solution, or just inform her of what you are trying or how you're going to solve it. And then that way she knows, okay, this guy is sharing with me, but he's also knows what he's doing and is going to solve it. Right. So you're like, he's letting me into his world, but then,
You can't be critical about
he's
it.
not giving me his right. Yeah. He's not giving me his problems, because no one wants to take responsibility, because then they're taking care of a third child, right. Or second child, or, taking care of. So,
It's a fine line. You
mm,
definitely need to go in with an understanding of the dynamics between men and women. And this is what we forgot. This is something that's not really taught. Men are not teaching this to their sons anymore because they don't know themselves. So we're really in a situation where women take men for granted and men are not very manly anymore.
mm.
So it's like a vicious circle.
Well, that's what I was referring to earlier when I said that, this has been sort of going on for 100 years now. And I don't mean to the extreme that it is now, but ever since, like, say, the Industrial Revolution, the absence of man in the household has been changing the dynamic, don't you think? I mean, before, you used to work on a farm, you used to work with your father, and everyone was together and helping each other, and there was contact with both mother and father all day long. But now, I have to go out to a 9 to 5, say, and then you don't see your father all day, and then he comes home for a couple hours in the afternoon, in the evening rather, and that's not enough, I feel.
No, I think it is. I think it is. But the thing is, one of the big problems that we have today is that both parents are not. I strongly believe a woman should stay with the children. I
Mm,
strongly believe it. I strongly, strongly believe that if the mother wants, I would not be with a woman that wants to work when there's children. I won't. But I would make sure that there's a couple my girlfriend follows. I don't remember what their name is, but he made a joke and he says he has magic floors. He's like, every single time I throw my dirty clothes on the ground, the next day they're washed, folded, and they're in my drawers. I don't understand. I have magic floors, and
I think
everybody's like uproar. Right? How can you say that? But then you catch the guy in a different video, and he's like, you know, if your girlfriend or your wife is spending all your money, you're not making enough money.
mm,
So this is the dynamic that to me makes sense. Right now, I'm building things that are going to be extremely lucrative in the future. I'm spending all my time, all my energy on this because I want to provide for my girlfriend. I want to provide for our future children. I want to make sure that they have what they need. I want to enable my girlfriend to be the mother that she wants to. And there's nothing better than a mother to nurture their children. You look at what we could consider one of the toughest civilization that ever lived. You look at the Spartans. You look at those were absolute killers. But did you know that until the age of 7, they were basically spending most of their time with their mothers? Because it was the job of the mother to teach emotional intelligence.
mm.
They needed to know that somebody cared for them. They needed to know that they were loved. Because look at this today. For any man out there that's single, that's dating, the first question you should always ask a new woman that you meet is to describe her fondest moment with her father.
Mm.
If she cannot, if she becomes emotional, irritated, she starts calling him name, you can tell that she's frustrated. Pay the bill, get out of there. This is a woman that hasn't done the work, that is not aware that her father is her first male love. And if this has not been fixed for some reason, she will never be able to be in a relationship with a man. Until she fixes whatever happened between her and her father, you cannot be in a relationship with a woman like that. It's always going to be trouble. There's nothing you can do. But if on the other hand, she's emotional, but she tells you a super good story, you can tell that she cares. And I'm not saying in a way that her father was perfect, because one thing's for sure, men are not perfect. But she can see the value in that man. She's done the work. She understands that her father, like most men, are broken somehow. So this is a question that you should always have in mind, because women, the father is always their first love, in the same way as boys, our first love is our mother. So if our mother wasn't there, you take me, for example, my mother was put in a situation where she has to deal with both sides. She had to be the feminine and the masculine. That means that, you know what happens when you're trying to juggle two things, you're trying to multitask, both of them are being done not very well. Well, we tend to mess up both instead of doing one great. So I've always had problems with the emotional aspect of my relationship. It's always been a problem with me, and it's always something I have to work on. For the rest of my life, I'm going to have to work on it. I'm always going to try to be better and better and better, but it is a problem that I've always had. Why? Because my mother never taught me that. And it's not just from me. I look at my sister, and my sister's cold. Like, she's not a very touchy-feely. I don't remember ever my mother being touchy-feely with me. So this is something that, and I'm not saying this like I'm complaining. I'm not saying this like, oh, boo-hoo, me. No, it's a fact. This is what it is. So I'm fully aware that this is how I was raised. This is fully aware that I'm lacking into it. And to be, if I want to be conscious and I want to take accountability and I want to make sure that I become better, I need to be aware that this is a problem. Right?
Should pop out of here. Be back. Hello? Yeah, we're back. Okay. I don't know if it was you or me, but doesn't matter. We can keep on going.
Definitely you. I was still,
Oh, yeah? Oh, well, so was I, but yeah, fair. Anyways, yeah, are we recording? I
yeah,
think
it
we
never
are.
stopped. That's what I'm saying.
Oh,
It
okay,
never
okay.
stopped. I'm happy I
Okay.
wasn't picking my nose and stuff.
Oh, I could do some editing magic. No worries.
Yeah, but you would have that on me.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
that
yeah.
out
I'll
anytime.
make a clip of that and
Yeah,
then
of
just.
just me. Yeah. Yes.
Nice. Yeah, do you want to just continue that thought or yeah?
Oh, I think, at this point is, you said it well earlier. I think I couldn't have said it any better. You just said that men and women are supposed to be polarized. We're supposed to be opposites. We're really the same coin, but two different sides of the coin. The yin and yang is the same thing. Like, we are meant to complement each other, but we're meant to polarize each other.
Yeah, I think, you know, there's this, I mean, just to go back to what you were saying about your mother and your sister, um, like there's this big thing going on right now of like in psychology in general and the trend, right, is like of looking into your childhood as to why you are a certain way. And yeah, I mean, there's definitely value in evaluating that. And it seems like you've done that, right? But but the second step of that is taking ownership and stop blaming your parents, right? Like
Yep.
you're a grown man. Like, it's like you can just be from like look at your life from a third person point of view, and then work on yourself, right? Uh,
You're
Past the
50%
age
responsible.
50%.
If you look at any given relationship, you own 50% of that relationship.
Ah,
There's
I, I,
50% yours, 50% somebody else. And you know, I'm the perfect example for this. My dad left. Do I blame, was he because of him that I became a drug addict, that I dropped out of school, that I became a thief, I became really an asshole? Is it because of him? 100%? No. Is he the instigator of this? Yes. Did it start when he left? Absolutely. But could I have chosen different? Absolutely. So that's what I'm saying. Is he, as you said, yes, he played a part, but I still own that. This still made me who I am today. But you know, to a point now, I'm 41 years old. This happened when I was 14. So 27 years of thinking. Now I realize that I'm a full-time content creator, and this is what I talk about every day. If it wasn't for the fact that my dad left when I was 14 and I did all the stupid things that I've done, I would not be preaching about this and writing my second book on the subject.
yeah, I mean,
That's accountability right there, bro.
we're the sum of our past experiences, right? I mean, everything that you went through made you who you are and brought you to where you are. So to a degree, you can thank them, right? You can be like, yeah, this is why I am who I am, right?
I wish
Uh,
he died a long time ago, but I wish I only saw him about a handful of time by the time he left and to the time he died. But I wish I could have a conversation with him as a man,
hmm.
today. I'm not even mad at him. Like zero. I would have no animosity towards him. Would I tell him he's a coward? Absolutely. Would I tell him that that really played a massive role on my life? 100%. But at the same time, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today. So
Hmm.
how can I really be mad at him? Right? Men are made. Boys are born, men are made through trials and tribulations.
Hmm. You you became the man you are because of him. So
100%.
yeah,
No doubt
yeah.
about it. No questions. Absolutely no questions. I'm grateful. At the end of the day, now being able to step back and look at it for what it is, I'm very grateful that this happened to me. I'm
Hmm.
very grateful that every bad thing that happened in my life, I'm very grateful for it, because you don't learn when everything's going well. You learn through pain and suffering.
Hmm.
They're the two best teachers. They're the one that's going to show you what life is all about.
I think the big thing right now for men, right, is realizing that ownership is the key, and it's an empowering thing to realize that you are responsible, that you are in control, right? It can potentially be a little bit overwhelming at first, but at the end of the day, to realize that you are the person that can enact change,
Mhm.
um, and like you said earlier, right, the key to that is courage, right? And there's a reason that women like and go for men that are courageous, right? Because that's what they're looking for. That's what makes them feel safe, and that's that's the quality of a man that has his life together.
And you know, there's a massive misconception to believe that to be courageous, you need to be fearless. They're not the same thing at all.
Mm,
If you're truly fearless, you have a psychological problem. Courage, on the other hand, is facing your fears. That's all it is doing something while being scared shitless. That's what courage is. Doing what needs to get done, even though you're scared, you don't want to do it, you wish somebody else would do it. But you know what? That's what being a man. Just take responsibility for it and do it. And what's incredible about accountability is it's hard to attain. It is hard to have that switch. It's not something, today we're so comfortable that we're never hurting enough to have to change. It's only when really shit hits the fan, where you hit rock bottom, that somebody really wants to change. Look at anybody that you know that's really accountable for his actions. He can tell you exactly when it happened. He can
mm,
tell you exactly. It didn't happen over time. It's something that clicks one day. As Einstein defined insanity as repeating the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. This is when you're hurting so bad that continuing to do what hurts you is no longer an option. then you're faced with the choices to say, I'll continue, but it's not even an option anymore because you can't continue. And then the only option that you have really is to say, you know what? I'll look at myself in the mirror and I'll admit that I'm an asshole. I'll admit that I'm not a good person. I'll admit that I've done a lot of wrong, that I've hurt a lot of people. But at the same time, if I'm able to hurt people, that also means I can take over my life because I'm in control of that part. The way that my emotions, my actions, and my reactions belong to me. That means that whatever I do, it's on me. My actions are on me. They're 100% on me, so I can choose to change. But I do not believe that anybody is capable of changing unless it hurts so bad that staying the same is no longer an option.
I 100% agree, and I hear it again and again. You just need to hit a point where there's just no other option, right? And it's what pushes you to be courageous. I mean, I remember when I started posting like content online, man, it was like, because a lot of guys, like you were saying, they think courageous, it means that they need to go fight a war or something, and it doesn't necessarily mean that, right? It's like, I remember the first time I posted something, I was never a social media person. And then I started, like the very first time I posted a podcast, man, it was a struggle. I like sat there and looked at the button for like 20 minutes, you know what I mean? Of like to upload. And I just realized like either I stay in this horrible job that I absolutely hate or I click that button. So I was like, okay, I guess it looks like I'm clicking that button, right? So
Yeah, your options. Thank you very much, man. I really appreciated it. It's, I envy where you are right now. I'm a bit envious. It looks like it's a lot warmer than where I am, but good on you,
tropical
brother.
over here.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for jumping on. Hopefully we can do this again.
Anytime. I'm always up to speak about masculinity. Always. So
Awesome.
we'll figure it out.
Great. All right,
Thanks
man.
again,
Talk to you later.
Yeah,
Peace.
bye.